What's going on, everybody? We're back at it again.
We're back
at it.
Season
Back at
2
it
of The
again.
Green Room. Thank you all so much for being here.
Man, happy to do it.
Yeah.
Gabe, back at it. Kaylin, back at it. Cass, we're here.
Here we are.
And I'm Rob.
Hi, Rob.
Hi.
Hey.
We're having a good time. Again, thank you guys for being here. What's been going on? What's happening in your world? Anything new and notable? Fun? Catch us up.
Why is everybody looking at me?
I know.
Man.
Sheesh, why so apprehensive to talk about your life?
Yeah, man. I am just vibing. Actually, I really hate the word vibe, and I try to use it ironically because it doesn't really mean anything.
Sure it does.
You feel that?
understand what.
Yeah,
yes.
and so
it's overused. It became
yes.
Okay.
like it was a cool thing, and then it became like
I try to use
everything. It could replace anything.
Yes, with as most mundane things as possible. Like when I got new tires, I was like, just tire vibes.
We're just tired vibing right now.
Where it's like, no,
Sure.
just don't.
But maybe we do. But maybe we do, though. I like it, okay? I like the word.
Is it overused? Absolutely.
Sure.
Yes.
Does it have a very deep meaning if you think about it? Yes.
Absolutely.
Because we
it
are all
does.
vibrating at some
Wow.
frequency. These
Uh-huh.
are the facts of creation.
Wow.
Wow.
Tires
Wow.
have a vibration.
Wow.
I feel something vibrating right
Come
now.
on, right now.
Are
Do
you
you
picking
feel
up
it?
It
this
might be
vibe?
a phone.
Right?
I don't know.
The spirit
Yeah.
vibration.
I'm done. Can we?
Do that
Can I
face
tap
again.
out?
Do that face again.
I can't.
That's so good.
Anyways,
Yeah.
here's-
Honestly, though, I have been trying to just spend as much time outside before it gets too cold.
Oh.
today's the first day it's even been like bearable. So I don't know what you're talking about.
I
It's in
know.
the
Listen,
hundreds.
I am the kind of person where I'm cold all the time. I have an office blanket and an office jacket and a space heater.
She's got the anemia.
I got that sickle cell.
We need
It's
some
anemic
iron
vibes,
up in
if
here.
you will.
Listen,
Got 'em.
it's just always been a thing. I take thaw breaks in the summer where I go take a lap around the building so I can, warm
Get
my bones.
some blood flow.
Yes. So summer is my time to shine. I'm like 100 degrees. Yes, I
Yes.
am a lizard. Please,
Yes.
just
Yeah. Yes.
bake me. So
Yes.
I've been trying to spend as much time outside as possible.
Yeah. I love the summertime.
And then anytime it's like fall weather hits, and most people, especially girls, are like fall vibes.
Are you? Come on. Are you?
Was
a
that
pumpkin
ironic,
spice?
It was
or was that?
not.
A
It was
slip up?
not.
That
You
was
see?
that was an authentic
It was
vibe.
an authentic
There's
vibe.
just real life
But
application.
I'm not. What to me, it's fall equals we're headed to winter and therefore to
Right.
depression.
It is. There is a.
See, I'm the inverse.
Yeah.
There's a
Winter
little
is
tinge.
my
There's a tinge of
season.
sadness.
I bloom. I blossom.
Yes.
Mhm.
The house is full of
I-
smells, wonderful smells. There's good foods.
I
Okay,
can
real-
totally get
Real
behind
flourish.
that.
question:
Inside
have the
in
fall
winter.
candles made an appearance? Yeah.
No.
Not yet. No.
No.
Okay.
I'm very specific about candles, though. Very non-toxic around our house. So there's only a select.
What's
But like
today's-
scents in
candles.
general.
Just so we know, it's September 6th when we're
Yes.
recording this.
oh yeah.
It's
Just
a
for
little
context.
early. It's still 100 degrees
I
outside.
mean, I think there are people that would argue that it is more than on time to
Now,
implement.
do you agree that the entrance of the pumpkin spice
Sure.
Yes.
is that the
Which just
signifier
happened
that
this
we are
week.
entering into autumn?
Yes, it is absolutely.
So Starbucks sets the
It's
tone.
the banner.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an earmarker, but like, I walked into Costco and saw Christmas wreaths,
Oh,
Get
it's
it
just
out.
too much.
and I was like,
Gosh.
Get it
Hobby
out.
Lobby.
it was literally I walked in 106 degrees
Yeah.
to
Yes.
Christmas
Yeah.
wreaths,
No.
and I'm not here for that.
yeah.
No.
That's
We
a
went-
little.
I went into Hobby Lobby for something last month, like for a bridal shower or whatever. And their Christmas stuff's already out. It's already there.
August.
My friends, it was
Now,
the middle
I'm
of August.
Pretty sure Hobby Lobby has Christmas stuff up in like February.
Well, I think it's just
Probably.
all year,
But like, I mean, I'm not just talking about like the back wall with the wreaths.
Oh,
like
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
the
the whole-
ornaments, the everything.
Always the entrance. Hobby Lobby gets you in the entrance. They have
Yeah,
such
like
little
for
cute
what?
setups
They-
up there.
It's
It's
true.
true.
It's like
It's
you
true.
need this whole vignette.
They're pushing you. They're
Yeah.
pushing
They
you
know.
to spend the money, you know. It's a wild time. I think I would agree though. I think I do like fall. It does feel nice. Like the feeling
yeah.
of this.
Oh yeah.
But it does. There's a little tinge of sadness for me because it's like,
We're going there.
the gatherings stop, the cold, the ice,
No, the gatherings just come inside where it's cozy.
Who gathers?
Everyone.
I
It's the
rarely want to
holiday
leave my
season.
house once it drops below.
Oh,
certain
I have to
levels.
leave my house to go to work. I have to leave my house to go and do things and to enter into the tundra, you know?
Yes.
I don't like
What's
it.
crazy?
You gotta go start
What's
your
crazy,
car if you don't have
There's-
a remote
Oh.
starter.
There's these like pretty new things called coats. And
No.
they really
Very
it's crazy
practical.
what you do.
Yeah.
You put them on and then it maintains your warmth.
Yeah.
It
Cars
doesn't.
also
It's an
do this really
incubator
cool thing
for
where
a
they like
torso.
warm up
No.
Yeah,
and you
torso
can just drive in the
incubator.
heat.
Yeah.
It's,
For Christmas
Technology's come a long
2
way.
years ago, my mom bought me a electric heated jacket.
yes. I've
Is it-
seen this.
It is
it's
Iron
iconic.
Man button. It glows blue when it's time.
Wow.
I'm not kidding.
Does it actually work though?
Yes.
It
Have
really
you not
works.
seen it? It's like magical.
Yes. And
I've seen-
it just heats your front and back. It's like your whole torso.
Okay.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
I'm not sure what other options are
Like
there.
it doesn't heat your arms, is what I'm saying. Okay,
Sure.
first of all.
Hey, but the pockets though.
Hey, you gotta
put
get
the
that core.
hands in the pockets.
Yes. And I have learned the hard way you cannot take this jacket through airport security like a normal person.
Oh,
Oh.
like
Because
there's some
of
wire.
the battery
it's a
pack.
bomb. Yeah.
It's attached. So every time it goes through, I'm like, yeah, that's just my
Security
that's
killed
my
me out of the
electric
situation.
jacket. So
Like, ma'am, can you step out of the line?
yeah.
Right, please.
Anyway,
Random security.
but it is a
check.
great invention, and I highly recommend.
Wow,
I had
that's
I had
really
some gloves that had some little heaters on it.
That's fancy.
good. That's good. As a fun question, I just love to know what are some of like your biggest worship fails? Not that you have witnessed,
Oh, God.
but that you have been a part of. Like you are yourself.
Personal experience.
Yes, personal experience.
Where
mate.
where to start? I mean, there are so many stories. Okay. This is one of my favorites. So Wednesday nights we have
Sure.
Switch,
Sure.
our student ministry, and at Life.Church, like it's basically what we do on the weekend, but for students. Like same band a lot of times, like the whole thing, right? All right, so I'm hanging out, and our dear friend Rich Gilliland,
Come on, Rich.
and
Shout out to
another
Rich.
worship leader. You know, it was Wednesday. We were hanging out, and he's like, "Hey, let's do lunch." Like, down. Let's go get some Mexican food. And I'm like, "Okay, cool." So we all piled in the car. I know.
I
And
already took
and I just like Google map like Mexican restaurants, right? And I'm new to town, okay? So I was unaware, and I'm just like reading it down, and I'm just kind of throwing it out there. Hey, and then I get to one, and I'm like, "Hey, what about Kaimis?" And he's like, "Kaimis?
Timing.
I've lived here my entire life. Where is that?" And I told him the intersection, and he was like, "Oh, Chimmy's?" And I said, "Yeah, that's my dyslexia getting
Sure.
the best of me on that one." But
on,
yes, so
Kaimis.
The Greek
so all of a sudden he's like, "Okay, cool. You want to go get some kips and queso?" I'm like a chimichanga, you know? And so anyways, we go and we eat, and I do order the chimichanga.
Sure,
And
absolutely.
So it's like double fried burrito.
Amen.
Horrible decision. Okay. So we like get back to the campus, and Rich disappears for about 15 minutes, comes back to the green room, and he's like, "Yo, Kami's made a comeback." And I was like, "Okay, I'm still feeling good, man.
Right,
like
we're
I'm,
fine. Maybe
I'm
that was his thing.
I'm vibing.
right, we're vibing. Come
I'm
on.
vibing. I'm feeling good. Digestive tract, all feeling in line." And then we're like, the countdown is going. We're about to get on stage for worship. And it hits. And the bubble guts start
And the
bubbling.
sweat.
And
Oh.
the sweat. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
No.
And Rich is playing bass for us. And I turn and I look at Rich and I'm like, dude, it's bad.
It's coming.
It's
happening.
bad. And there's no time. There's no time. We're walking on stage right now. Okay. And we're like jumping around in the worship set. Like, I mean, because you got to bring energy.
Of course,
On that,
it's Wednesday
on that
night.
Wednesday night. We got to set the tone. And y'all, as I'm leading, there is just this smell,
No.
an overwhelming.
No, Gabe. No, Gabe.
And I start panicking.
Oh my god.
I start panicking. And I'm like, I may have
No.
done that. And I kind of just like, you kind of got to give it the little wiggle. And I'm like, I think I'm safe. And I turn and I look back at Rich and he smells it and he's like,
No.
just like staring at me like,
No.
bro, are you okay? Like, is this happening? And I was like, oh my gosh. And I turn and the students on the front row just start like,
No. Are you gotta be kidding
in the
me?
middle of the set. A student had released a stink bomb.
Oh,
This is going into
man,
I
that,
didn't.
my God.
I know.
that was a very.
It convinced me. I was like, I may have lost control of my body.
I did not see that coming.
And it was a stink bomb from a student.
God.
And the timing. First stink bomb experience in a worship
my
set. And it just so happened to be when I was fearful for my life.
Right.
And so
What
that
a twist.
It was
What a twist.
it was an
Man.
experience, guys. Was an experience.
Oh my God.
that gave me
Okay.
joy.
All right. So who's
Y'all had me
Wow.
on an emotional roller coaster.
I know.
Dude,
So
I'm telling you.
I was
unexpected.
with you. I was with you.
man?
The plot
Kaimis.
twist.
Timies, bro.
Note to self: Kaimis is not it.
No, it's
No.
not it.
No, save that for like a Thursday.
Yeah.
You know?
When it's safe.
When you don't have to be on stage.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Mine is not that dramatic, but this was, I remember leading worship for junior high. So I myself was also in junior high. This is like beginning of youth band experience, you know.
The best.
The culture.
Raw, no Pro Tools, no click, we're just
No numbers.
no numbers, man. We're just vibing out here. I'm telling you, it's gonna keep coming up. It's gonna keep coming up. And so we rehearse, right? Like I'm playing guitar, capo, the whole thing. We rehearse, we do it great. I think we were playing a song in A, and I'm using G shapes on capo 2, right? Let's freaking go. Just give you that extra voicing, that extra texture, right?
Oh yeah.
It comes time to play the song, and we're in it. I was transitioning, so like previous song I didn't have a capo, next song capo 2, right? So I move the capo on, and I start the song off. So we're starting it. You already know where this is going, dude.
No.
I'm starting it, going, we're in it, I'm singing it, and I noticed that my keys player isn't really coming in when he's supposed to be coming in. Bass player is also the same. I'm like, what is going on back there? Like, we rehearse this, like, what's wrong? Like, we're playing the song, and I hear them kind of like, no. And they're like talking back there in the middle of the song. Like, what is happening? Like, we're supposed to be playing. Like, we're in it. Like, let's just get it together. I look at the neck. I look at my guitar, and I realize that capo went 1 fret too far. So we're not playing in A. We're playing in B flat. And I didn't
That'll
know
get you.
until like 30 seconds in that I put the capo on the wrong. So my friends are trying to figure out what key, and it's not an easy key. It's B flat.
Right.
On how to figure out how to get in and play what they need to on the fly in the middle of the song. They did really well, I will say. All things considered, they figured it out.
Way
They
to
got
go.
there eventually.
Good.
And I
That's
had to
impressive.
apologize. I had to apologize. Y'all, I'm so sorry. I put the capo on the wrong fret in the middle of the song. Just classic youth group shenanigans. You know? Sorry, it wasn't Kaimis level embarrassment.
No,
but,
dude,
you know,
that's pretty rough. That's probably worse than mine, dude, for sure. I'd be
I don't
embarrassed.
know, bro. That Kaimis experience.
That's cultural. Like it's just.
Anybody else? Worship fails?
So I was a worship leader. This was here at Life.Church.
Nice.
And I was filling in. I was covering at another campus. Can't remember if I'd ever been there before or whatever, but it was a campus where they only had one other vocalist and on stage. And so when I lead rehearsal, I like to come off stage and take ears out, and I like to listen to the mix that's in the room. And I'm also notorious for not having the piece of brain functionality where I remember setting things down.
Sure,
So,
sure.
modern day Dory, here we are. Well, the countdown is on. There's like 1 minute left, and I'm backstage, and I realize my microphone is not back there.
Yeah.
And in fact, I don't even know where the other mics are.
Yeah, of course.
So here comes the countdown. I tell this other vocalist, you're leading the song and welcoming people.
Yeah.
I'm going to go find my mic because it's probably in an auditorium chair. sure enough, I am just like perusing the rows. She's the only person on stage. And I'm just like, excuse me, are you sitting on are you?
I
am just.
Anybody seen a microphone?
Anybody seen a microphone in here?
Right. I was like, keep your eyes peeled for a little black mic. Yeah. So half of the song goes by and another staff member just comes running towards me. It's like, oh, I got it. She told me later, it was in a row for sure.
Sure.
So I just come like gallivanting in halfway through the song and I'm just like, here we are. I'm here. And
Oh my God.
I just imagine you like going down the rows.
Yes.
It's like, hey, have you guys seen a mic? And like someone's dad is like, what? I'm me?
well, sure
I'm
enough.
Mike. I'm Mike.
This was poke
I'm
me.
Mike.
Oh my gosh.
It's this for me.
Right, I
like,
was just kind of like,
hello, my baby.
it's just like this other random human that they've never seen before because I'm covering this campus.
Right.
Just shows up, and so I probably I don't even remember. I think I blacked it out the rest, but
Classic.
I was like,
So good.
that was a good time.
You have a story?
I'm trying to think of specific stories.
She doesn't have a fail. She's too perfect.
I know I've had fails. I'm thinking like in youth group, I know my keyboard fell over at least once.
Yeah.
For sure.
Classic.
Just like fell off the thing.
How does that happen? Because those key stands seem so. I've seen so many worship fails online.
Okay,
know,
It
man.
depends on the
X-stands,
keys.
the X
Yes.
Stand
They
because
will
if,
just-
if that like little joint, our keyboard stand at our youth group was upheld by a pin.
A pin,
Yeah.
right?
Like
But it's a metal pin. How is that
But
just gonna?
if the
pop out?
stand is
Plastic.
like rickety at all, like I don't know, we weren't buying like the top line stands for sure. Just
Think
the
about a
cheapest
chair
option
that
at
is like
keyboards
off
and more.
balance. If your
Yeah.
stand is that
So-
way.
And then you're just
going,
flopping,
you're
really going.
slamming those
Yeah.
ivories.
Yeah,
We're getting
it can
in.
happen.
It's like the fish technique.
When you're really getting in
so many fish
to the
references.
spirit.
She didn't mean to. It's fish vibes.
Yeah, so I know
It's
that's
fish
happened
vibes,
before. Oh, here's one. This isn't like directly worship, but I was on stage in a worship set telling like a portion of my testimony. And this was in college. I was on tour.
It's good.
We were at a church and the vibes were already kind of weird. So there's vibes again. Like
See?
it was just an interesting
Yeah.
culture of a place, and we were all kind of sick on the team. Just kind of an off night. Anyways. So I get to the part where I'm like sharing my testimony before we transition to a new song. And we had our front of house guy was like talking back in the ears, saying something, making jokes, like, but he was like so loud in my ears, and I didn't think
talk
like
back.
I didn't
As
think
you're talking.
as I'm talking.
Wow.
And I
Brother.
didn't think for whatever reason I was just
disrespect.
like, let me just.
Or sister. Could have been a sister.
So I just like tried to power through it, and I was like. I remember saying out loud something along the lines of, I can't think right now. I just heard something in my ears, and we're going to go into this next song now.
Dang. Mid-testimony.
Dang.
We're done. We need to go.
It was so bad. Communication has never been my strong suit, but I don't think it's ever been worse than that moment.
Wow.
So yeah, we just went into the next. My team was like, okay.
And the transition is now.
We just went into the next song. Oh man,
Yes.
we've come a
Now
long
we're
way
here.
from those days. But yeah,
Wow.
that
You
was,
know, but those are
definitely-
like growing pains, though.
Right.
You know, like
Yeah.
those are
it's
the
painful.
those are the moments that I bet you were a little more careful next
For
time
sure.
you put that capo on.
Definitely
Yeah.
watched where I
Yeah.
put that capo, you know. I'm sure you looked at what you were eating before you walked
I
up on
did.
stage, made
Yeah.
sure.
I did.
I definitely made sure to take an ear out every time I spoke on stage from then on.
That's good.
Wow.
Even to this
I bought
day.
air tags for all. No, I'm just kidding.
For all my microphones.
Every mic
What's
just
funny
has
is that
an
doesn't
airplane.
even solve the problem because you're still, excuse me, have you
You're
seen?
trying to listen for the sound. and
But it's coming out of the speakers, so you're like, it's everywhere.
So unhelpful.
So good.
That's great.
That's a perfect segue. We're going to just talk about development
Yeah.
and how we learn and grow and how we develop others as well. We've all had associates or people that are charged under our development to train them up and do the thing, or have identified potential calling and gifts in other people and have brought them onto the team. And so I'd love to talk about that. What does that look like for us? And we'll just start off with this. How do we identify that? What's your philosophy on development? And let's just start there.
Man, I would say, like, my philosophy on development is that nobody's development track looks the same.
Mm-hmm.
Facts.
Like, every person has a different way of learning. They come in with different inclinations. They come in with different preferences, different experience levels. And so, like, every person who comes in, it's not like there's this, here's this clean cut box of how to develop a person.
Yeah.
It really requires the ability and I think the desire to, like, see the person.
Yeah.
And try to understand, man, what are they passionate about? Like, what's the thing that I can pull out of them and help them identify. And so, yeah, I mean, I think with that comes all kinds of different lanes.
Speaking of
Sorry, Chris. Sorry for
about it.
Gabe's unprofessional. Mike hitting.
Yeah. No. So yeah, I think development looks different for every person. And it requires the willingness to, like, not be caught in my own, like, I learned this lesson the hard way because I was just, like, teaching someone how to, like, build a Pro Tool session. And I'm just like, okay, you got that? You see this? And they were just honestly quiet and kind of, like, seemed like they were with me. And then we pause and it's like, no, I didn't catch any of that. And I was like, man, I was operating how I learned and how I developed and what my inclination is rather than recognizing that this might not be what you need or how you need me to talk to you.
Let me ask you a quick question. What do you look for in a person that that makes you want to develop that person? What are the characteristics in somebody that say, like, yes, they need to be in ministry, or I really think that God is calling them to worship, or that type of thing? What do we look for in people?
This is less maybe practical, but I will almost always, probably 99 out of 100 times, will look at the heart of someone before I look at the talent of somebody. Because to me, you can teach technique, you can teach, some of the stuff that's actually, on paper is like, okay, you need these things to succeed. But it is very, very hard to teach someone who is not teachable, who is has pride problems or self-centeredness, or is on stage or trying to do their thing for the wrong reasons. So I'm more inclined to take someone who is rough around the edges, either vocally or whatever their skill set is, but they have such a willing heart to learn. I find that my development is even more successful with those people than someone that comes in ready to rock and roll, technically proficient, but isn't in a bad place in their heart.
Right.
Yeah, that's
For
good.
sure.
I think about Abby Nickel. We got to shout her out.
Come on, Abby.
So when I met her, she was 13, and somebody had identified that she had, like, a really strong talent for singing.
Yeah.
And had showed me this video and was like, yo, dude, this girl's incredible. And so I see it, I'm like, you're right, she's amazing. And scheduled a meeting with her and talked with her parents, and we met up because she was also interested and inquired about it as well. And when we get in there, I have all those questions, like, what's your heart on it? Like, why do you want to do it? What are your motivations? And they were all really great questions, or great answers to the question. But the thing that stuck out to me is, like, I left it open-ended. I was like, so what questions do you have for me? And she was like, so I've noticed that a lot of my friends tend to idolize the people on stage. This is as a 13-year-old. They tend to idolize the people on stage. How do you deal with that and not let pride get in the way of what you do? Because I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Blew me away. I've never seen someone that young have the wherewithal to identify
Right.
what is not successful or what traits aren't successful in the role, and then be like, how do you navigate that? Because I don't want to do that. That was so huge. That was so telling that her motivations are in the right way. She wants to please the Lord with her gift. She wants to, you know, to be on the right side of this and be pure and clean in that.
Yeah.
I know for me, that's in the same way as you, like, I'm looking at the heart. What is the motivation? What drives you? What do you want to do? And if it's not aligned with that,
Right.
we can coach that on the back end, but we need to make sure that that is set
Yeah.
before we start talking about the weight and the practical steps of the role, you know?
Yeah.
Yep.
I will also say, part of being a developer is being able to like see potential in someone before they see it, even like as far
Yeah.
as the hard stuff goes.
Oh, yeah.
So for example, I started in church ministry because I just wanted to sing, and I didn't know anything about ministry when I was 12. But I wanted to sing in the choir because I thought that would be cool to sing in the choir.
Oh, yeah.
I had no like ministry aspirations.
Yeah.
I had no like, well, tell me your philosophy behind the things that Abby was asking.
Yeah.
Never would have even crossed my
Right.
mind.
Right.
I didn't even
Very
know.
abnormal.
I had no
Yeah,
idea.
yeah,
In the context I was raised, I didn't even think women could lead in the church. Like I didn't think that was a thing. Like, and I wasn't thinking in that way. But I had leaders. Like as time went by, you know, I started playing piano on the worship team. Started playing keys. Like, but I had leaders who saw more in me than just being a musician. Because of the natural skill sets I have in leadership, organization, that kind of thing. Like none of them scream pastor.
Yeah.
But like if you can start to instill theology, if you can start to instill, here's a philosophy of how we lead people in a godly way, according to like how we shepherd and like that kind of thing, just like build that into people. I think it helps when they start young. For
Yeah.
sure, it might be a different approach to someone who's older, but just looking for potential and how to plant and grow and cultivate things out of people.
Yeah.
If that takes root, like then like you get the heart thing that we're talking about that might not be there in the beginning, but
Sure.
it grows. Like, and so I think there's multiple layers when it comes to development. Yes, identifying the people whose heart's already in the right place.
Yeah.
Like, let's go. Like, let's just train up. You know, let's build on that and train the skill sets. But also like having eyes to see. You know, this person has no idea that ministry could be a thing for them, but I see something there. There's
Yeah.
something there.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's pull that out and see what comes of it.
Yeah.
What were the conversations or experiences that made that turn in your mind as you were just kind of entering in because it's something that you like to do? But where was the turn of like, I really feel called to this and I want to pursue this?
That came in a very specific moment as I was in a like experiencing a time of worship. It wasn't necessarily something that one of the people developing called out of me, but it did like it prepared my heart for that. So like hearing my worship pastors talk about things like how to replace yourself, like how to like build a culture to where like it's self-sustaining and it's healthy and like encourage like building a culture that isn't like asking much of people without like pouring into them first. Like those kinds of things like all prepared my heart for then when God met me in a time of worship and was like, this is actually why I've given you all your giftings and you're going to do this.
Right.
Like it all came together in a moment separate from necessarily being developed, but just seeing how people thought of things differently than like the world outside would. Because I had been a musician outside of the church and all that and felt what it feels like to be known for my gifting and that's it. Like, but the church, when we lead people in the church, like there's so much more to it than your gift.
Yes.
At least there
totally.
should be in a healthy culture, in a healthy development culture. And so,
Well, tell me what it is, because even though it might not be directly tied to somebody developing you,
yeah.
we can also help build the culture and provide an environment for the Spirit to do that thing in you. So what was it? What was the turn? What was the turning point for you as a person to be like, man, I really want to do this?
Just like, so I was attending this like set of worship nights at a Pentecostal church.
Come on.
Coming from a Baptist background,
Wow.
did not even know that worship could be as lit as it was.
Come on.
There was some stuff that I was like, this is kind of scary. But
Sure.
I mean,
Flag waving.
now that I know more, like it was all beautiful. But at the time, like, I just remember experiencing the Spirit of God in the room, like, in a way I had never, like, I had only ever seen God as, like, this distant, like, and I had to, be perfect and blameless and, do everything right. And, like, I had a good relationship with God at the time for what I knew of him, if that makes sense. But, like, there was so much more to his character that I hadn't seen just because of the context and my lack of experience. So I was probably, like, 13 at the time. And I saw God, like, literally, I saw someone healed in a worship set. I saw, like, people breaking down, crying, and, like, just hearing some of the things that they were talking through and processing, like, seeing God heal hearts in a worship set. The worship sets were like 3 hours long, which is a lot, but, like, just the idea that we can just sit in God's presence and, like, he doesn't grow tired of that, and we don't have other places to be, like, we don't have to rush it, like, just experiencing that, the presence of God in an unhurried way, and seeing the impact that it could have on a room full of people. There was a very clear moment towards the end of one of the nights where, like, I didn't audibly hear it, but as, like, loudly as you can hear, like, words directly to your heart, like, God made it very clear, like, I've given you your gifts of music and administration and leadership and all for this, like, this closeness that you're feeling with me right now, like, I have created you to help people find intimacy with me through worship. And so ever since then, I took that back to my leaders. I was like, so I think I'm supposed to do this.
Wow, yeah.
And there was already a foundation being built, and so it just kind of grew from there. Yeah.
And even that, like, you went and told your leader.
Yeah.
Like, there's a thing I think that a lot of people may get nervous to, like, share with their leader. Like, I just had someone on my team who serves on my team who just came and shared with me, like, that she's kind of wrestling with this calling, and like, maybe just like you, like, maybe God gave me this gift to use, like, it vocationally, you know, like, that my life is for this. And for me as her leader, like, that changes how I'm going to develop you and how I'm going to pour into you and invest in you, because like, I've already seen this thing in you, but now I know, like, man, that you're here, that you're ready, that you want to be teachable, that you want to be developed, and that you're hungry for feedback and for all the things that we do. And so I just even love that, like, share that. Don't keep all of those things inside. Like, trust the people around you. I know for me, like, I had to, all growing up, like, I was kind of viewed as the, like, leader in most circles that I was a part of. It was a small youth group and even smaller praise band, and, like, hardly anyone knew what we were doing, you know? and so, like, that was, the leader was kind of this prideful identity that I had, like, strapped on, you know, this is who I am. And I had to get onto a team where I was not the leader, and I had to, like, learn how to follow. And that, I think, was actually the time that I learned how to be a leader. Was in that space of being willing to release, you know, willing to follow and willing to, and I got to see, you know, my leader, mentor, like, the way that he loved us, the way that he cared about his team and the people that were, you know, trusted to him to lead, and the way that he was able to, like, see things and pull them out of us and, like, give feedback, sometimes, like, really hard to hear feedback, but in a way that was life-giving and that was, like, built you up, you know, like, you don't leave the conversation feeling, like, deflated, but you feel, like, charged, like, man, there's something more for me here. And so, yeah, I think a huge part of learning how to be a great leader is learning how to be a great follower.
Absolutely.
Sure.
There are a couple of things I want to, in your story and in the story of that individual that was, like, working on, right? Like, first, there was an entrance into an environment where the Spirit was flowing and was moving and allowing allowing God to inspire those that want to take up that mantle and that call. So like I take from that, like, the auditorium, the green room, whatever the space is that I am in charge of, has to be a place where the Spirit is moving.
Absolutely.
Because
Yeah.
those people will not hear and
Yeah.
it will not inspire
Right.
if it is caught up in my own thing,
Yes.
or if I'm focused on something else, right? So just being obedient to that as the leader will inspire those, and will sift, right? The people will come, and God will move in that. And then what you do when they say yes or they come to you, is in that same vein of just letting God move, and then bringing your story. It was important to talk about the origins of it, because it comes from God.
Yeah.
Your desire to lead people,
Right.
and the people to come. But we first have to have an environment where growth can happen. It has to be healthy first. We have to be following
Right.
before we lead. Did you? Please, did that pick up? Did you hear Siri? Yes.
found
Yes,
this on the
Siri.
web.
I found this on the web. Good. Thank you, Siri, for doing some research.
She might have had something good to say.
Dang.
Wow.
Well, no.
Well, I would think so. I think the inverse is also true. Like, even if you don't have a desire to lead, and or if it's just something that feels like you have an unconventional journey. I feel like my journey as a worship leader, worship pastor was very different in the sense of I never wanted to lead anything. I was always like, I'm good for if people just tell me what to do. Like, not really an aspiration to be in charge of people, because I was like, that's too scary, first of all, and that's just not for me. That's just not my personality. And even kind of my path to getting where I am now is like I had no musical knowledge. I was in high school choir. I went through college, got a degree in advertising,
Nice.
and just kind of felt this stirring, like that. I felt like God was saying ministry is where you need to be, but I didn't know the avenue. And because it was more born out of a desire to, going through some family experiences where they were all walking away from the Lord, and just feeling like this is the only thing that's been constant in my life. Jesus is the only thing. And that's the only thing I can think of that I would live or die for, the passion for, for other people to know Jesus. And so just coming to, post college degree, like showing up and like, how do I do this? Kind of just thought to myself, okay, well, I love to sing. I didn't even know people could be worship pastors. Like, I don't think I ever even thought anything of it, just if somebody was on stage during worship. And even still to this day, there's never been any kind of inclination or like this moment where God met me and was like, this is what you're supposed to do. It's kind of just been like, God, maybe this is the avenue I can walk to serve you. Maybe these are ways I can use my gifts to serve you and point other people to you. But there was a lot of insecurity there, I think, because I saw people around me and like, man, these people have been leading youth bands since they were 12, 13 years old. And I'm here 23 and I've never even led worship. I'd never even served in church before. Wow. And so I think the important thing, even like you said earlier, development, everybody's on a different track, but the outcome is the same. Like we all want to show up and just let God use us the way he wants to use us, not necessarily the way we want to be used. Right. So sometimes that looks like submitting, this desire for leadership to being followers. And sometimes that means putting aside all the insecurities of why I can't do this, or why I'm not qualified enough, or why I should talk myself out of this thing, and allowing God to use me anyway. I think that's also equally important, because maybe someone else's story, is like that. Yeah.
So this is really cool, like context, even just for us to see this as an example of what I'm about to say. But like, so as developers, then I think our responsibility is to take the time to get to know everyone.
Yes.
100%.
Like get to know their heart, get to know their desires, their background, all the things that like God has placed inside of them. Yeah. So that and prayerfully like approach those situations so that he allows us to see the things we need to see to begin to till soil for what he might have in the future for them.
Mhm.
It's not our job to say like, I think you could be a worship pastor. I mean, maybe that's like a very clear step he gives us, but like it's not going to be my job to look at the student who wants to sing on the worship team maybe, or just wants to talk about worship and be like, I think you could be a worship pastor someday. My only job is to like prayerfully till the soil that God puts in front of me right then. And maybe that leads to being a worship pastor someday. Maybe that leads to being, something in the corporate world someday, some way, somehow.
Right.
And that will like influence their walk in ways that I'm never going to see.
Yeah.
But it's faithfully like approaching what God has. And we talked about this in other episodes too, just like being faithful to the thing in front of us, but being faithful to steward.
Yep.
I don't want to say steward people because that acts like people are resources. People are much more than just resources, but like steward the time that you have with a person, because time is fleeting, whether they're with you for a few years or, you only get to have a handful of conversations with them. Approach each of those conversations as like a valuable investment into a future you may never see, but you're responsible to till soil.
Yeah.
And so that would be my approach to development, I think.
That's so good. So some foundations, right, that we've identified. One, we let the Spirit move always.
Yeah.
Should always be flowing within our life, within the spaces that we occupy. Number two, be responsible with the seeds that you've been given, till the soil, right? So the person that you have identified or comes to you, we get to know the story, right? We start doing that.
And I think just in general, you can view everyone as an opportunity to till soil.
You always want to leave people better than you found them.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's so good. So good. So I just want to get real practical and put some scenarios in front
Sure.
and talk about how we handle that and just have fun with it. Right. And these scenarios are like, have real people in mind, like things that we're all going through. So another worship pastor came up to me and told me about this experience that he had with this individual who they just had a worship night, and so was not scheduled to lead a song at the worship night. Was scheduled on the stage, but did not lead one. Got very, very upset about it, upset that they did not get the opportunity, and had a whole blow-up conversation with said worship pastor. What would y'all do in that scenario, and how do we handle that? Let's just step in. Practical.
Are you saying how would we handle that conversation or the steps after the conversation's already
Both.
happened?
Yeah.
Both. How do we handle the conversation? Where do we move from there?
Yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts because I've walked through this.
Yeah.
Plenty.
Yeah,
of
I know
times.
we have. Yeah.
Plenty of times.
I've walked through it with worship pastors as well.
And
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think at the point that that's happening, like the conversation is happening too late. It's happening later than it should have. I think it's like in this book, Upstream, it gives this analogy, and I think it's so good, or this metaphor. And it's like, okay, so these two guys are like hanging out by a riverbed, having lunch, and all of a sudden there's like a baby in the river floating by crying, and they like jump in and like rescue it and like get it out of the river, and they're like, oh my gosh, like what just happened? Then here comes another kid, and they jump in again and they're rescued, and all of a sudden there's more and more, and then one of the guys just takes off. He just starts running, and the other guy's like, what are you doing? Like, I need your help, like I can't get all of these. And the guy's like, I'm gonna go get the dude who's throwing these kids in the river. Like I'm gonna go address it at the source, right? And so like that, there's this way of thinking of like, okay, instead of just like putting the Band-Aids on the thing, like what am I doing on the front end that is helping prevent these issues?
That's good.
And so I think when it comes to this thing, to this competition, to this jealousy thing that is so, y'all, this is the oldest ploy of the enemy in the book. Like this, he doesn't have new tricks.
Right.
You know, like it's the same stuff. Why not me? Why am I not getting the opportunity? Like it's that same thing. And so I just think that like personally, like on my team, when I get anyone new, like I just set that expectation like because that competition is poison.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
spreads.
Yeah.
It is contagious.
Yeah.
And so I just let him know on the front end, like, there's like a sniff of this. Like
Get
it
the whiff
just has no place on this team and accomplishing this. Like, but here's the other side. Talk to me about these things.
Right.
Like process them with me. Like, you're not crazy for having these feelings, but allowing it to impact your heart and your posture and what you're able to bring to this team and to this stage and to this church. Man, we just have to keep that in check.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of it is like conversations on the front end of establishing culture and establishing a norm and like, hey, here's the expectation. Like, you're not going to get an opportunity every time you're scheduled.
Right.
Yeah.
Every time you're on the schedule.
Yeah.
And guess what? That does not mean that your input is any less valuable.
Of
Right.
course.
And so I think just helping people to understand that
Yeah.
is really important.
Yeah.
For sure. I think also I can think of, yes, all of that is extremely valuable. And I think I can think of times where maybe I'm the new worship pastor coming on the heels of an older one. And the previous administration, if you will, had some different thoughts or approaches to some of that stuff. And so you can cast all the vision you want, but the team that's been with that previous team has something they're already used to and accustomed to. And making that transition is not going to be necessarily the easiest thing because people are flexible sometimes, and sometimes there's a little bit of it takes time to adapt. And so I think, first of all, having grace for that is important, because if you come in and you're like, this is the way it's going to be now, and just expect everyone to get on board right away, you're not leaving room for the Spirit to work in their hearts the way He works in all of our hearts. And so having grace for those conversations. But, if someone were to come to me and say, like, if we get to the explosiveness, that's, a little bit of a different story.
Yeah.
And I can give like specific thoughts on that in a minute. But like, if there is an expression of hurt feelings or like, help me understand why this happens, you have to realize they're coming from a different context.
Right.
Maybe they were led to believe that like every time they're going to be on stage, they're leading a song, and maybe they feel like they did something wrong. Maybe it's not like, maybe it's not necessarily jealousy, at least on the front end of that feeling. Maybe it's, have I done something wrong?
Yeah.
Have I, stepped on your toes or whatever? So I would first, barring the explosiveness, if someone were to just come to me and express confusion or disappointment or anything like that, I would express how much I value that person. I would express that this does not mean that you are not valuable. This does not mean there's no upsetness. There's nothing here. None of that is here. Just dispel all of that stuff first to kind of disarm the situation. I would reaffirm like the value that they bring to the team, and then give the context of like, we only have this, we have this amount of people on our team. There is just God has given us an embarrassment of riches with the talent on our team. Not everyone can lead a song every time, but the energy and the space and the leadership that you feel, even just by being on the stage leading, is still so valuable. Even if your voice is not the lead voice in a moment, like you lead people just when they look at you. And so helping to start to like reframe leadership is not just being the lead voice. And then seeing what that does. Some people are still not going to be happy because they really just want to be the center of attention. That happens. And yes, the next set of conversations will probably be along the lines of, let's take some time off.
Yeah.
Let's observe from out front. Like,
So
continued conversations, unless there is like a combativeness where they're just completely unwilling. Like, if they're just completely unwilling to hear anything other than you get to have the next lead song, then your time on the worship team's probably done. But if there's just like some heart stuff and you still see like there's potential here, we just got to grind through some of this, I would say let's take some time off from the stage and continue having conversations. What were you saying?
Well, with that, I mean, just a really practical thing, and this is a next step that I have led people towards before, is like, I want to see you serve like in any other capacity. off the stage.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see you at a door greeting someone. Like, I want to see you in a Life Kids room.
Yeah.
Because, like, that heart of service is what is required to do this too. Like, this looks like, excuse me, this thing like on stage that looks like a benefit almost, you know, or like a, oh man, look at that. Well, they must be really killing it. You know, like, no. Like, this requires the same servant's heart. This requires the same humility, if not more, because we are in danger of that spotlight being a little too bright, you know, and like that becoming just a little too appealing.
That next step is protection.
Yes.
It may not feel like it. Right. It's not punishment.
Like punishment.
Right.
But
It could
not.
sure feel like that because, I have to take a step off, a step down, right? And in our mind, that means we're less valuable by doing that. But no. If you are to be on that platform, right, just like you said, it requires sacrifice and humility. And if it's not there, it will crush you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So to come over here, let's fall in love with service. Let's have an overflowing amount of grace here in this environment where it is safer to practice and learn that.
Right.
So that when the time comes for you to take the platform, you can handle it better and it will not crush you. Because how many times have we seen where pride is the root and attention is the desire and the motivation, and it just slaps you so hard, right? What does the Bible say? That pride comes before a fall, not success. So if we're identifying that and that's coming out, okay, well, we need to, let's address this. Let's find a safe place for this to be developed in you so that you can be ready for where God has, has called you to do.
If it's not addressed, it is a time bomb.
Yes.
It's a time bomb.
Yeah.
And whether that's like, someone with a pride issue on your team has a major moral failure and it's like they're just on display for everyone. So like having that conversation, like you said, it is protection, not only of like, here, let's build this healthier mindset, but it's like, okay, let's get you to a healthier place overall, holistically.
Yes.
Because it's never just like pride issues are never just singular. Like there's always a host of things in your life of any person who's dealing with this kind of stuff. And so, which is
maybe for some people.
I think all of us have been there. Like I have had to like check myself of like, I maybe don't need to be in the spotlight right now. And I mean, I would hope that we're all able to do that kind of audit, but like this stuff affects worship pastors too.
It never stops.
I have to have these conversations with worship pastors sometimes for like our staff events of like, just because you didn't get chosen to lead at this event or haven't led at an event like this in a while, there's nothing wrong with you. We have almost 60 worship staff and I'm going to choose some of them and some of them are not going to get chosen. It has nothing to do with your value, your ability, your calling. Yeah. But there's this thing that happens when we just look at, the shiny things, the fun, the extra. It's so easy to forget that like what we're called to is what's right in front of us.
Yeah.
And it's what God has given us, and it's waking up every day like, okay, God, what's next? Okay, God, what's next? Sometimes, leading for a special event will be a part of what's next. But it's not, whether you get those invites or not, there is no indication of I'm doing great as a worship pastor if I do this.
Right.
I'm doing well in my role if I get to lead in this capacity. I'm doing well in my role as a worship pastor if my songs get chosen to be produced and recorded. Like,
so true.
It's all of that is extra stuff, and all of that has its place. Like I wake up every day thinking about that stuff because I'm no longer on a worship pastor on a campus as a worship pastor. But like for what y'all do on the weekend, like that community that you're pouring into. That is the thing in front of you. It's the most important. It is should be the shiny, pretty thing because that is what God has given you and only you to steward. And so all that to say, this is stuff that like you deal with students you're developing all the way up through the worship pastors who have been worship pastors for 10 plus years. Like
it's true.
It's just a root that we have to continuously audit and pull out of ourselves.
I think one of the questions that even for us as we are leading, we just have to ask ourselves, like, if if this were to all go away tomorrow, like for whatever reason we were incapable, or God just said, you are dropping this right now, would we be able to get to a place of contentment? I'm not saying that you wouldn't have like a grieving process or whatever.
Right.
But I mean, I think it's a really practical place of like, you know, am I being open-handed with this calling, or am I too close-fist to for God to do anything else with it? And I think, you know, I've also been in that place, especially as I was like pursuing ministry, totally pivoted careers, like in my mid-20s, and feeling like, okay, I'm not getting better because there's no opportunity for me. And it was just like this Holy Spirit moment of dropping in and saying like, well, would you be willing to give this up for me?
Yeah.
And it was in that place of surrender, of saying, God can still use me in different ways, and it doesn't have to be this.
Yeah.
And it was like only then was he saying, okay, now that's somebody I can use.
Yeah.
As someone who is consistently just putting their gift at the altar and saying, God, this is yours. And so I think I try to lead my teams from a development standpoint from a place of vulnerability and even sharing that part of my story, sharing just what we're called to as worship leaders, even like our bands on our team, just, you know, instilling in them like what you have been given to steward. I mean, if that were to go away, my hope is that you still feel like you are content in who Christ made you to be. It's not based on your ability or what your gifts are. And so like when we set that precedent from the beginning, my hope is that, I mean, sure, we'll still have people on our teams that will kind of let their hearts grow bitter and hard based on pride. But my hope is that if we are consistently pouring into people in a way that leads the way with humble submission, that they will follow.
Yeah. I love that because it speaks to the entire pendulum of where you are on your development, whether you're someone who is really seeking all the attention or someone who's really timid and not doesn't feel like they're worthy to step into the space, because there's all of that in between. It's leading the way with humility and vulnerability, you know, and getting to know the story, tilling the soil, allowing the Spirit to move in all of those spaces. You partner along with the Lord. That's how we develop people. You know, I know we're a little over on time, so I think that's I could really do like I could do a part 2 for real on this, but I think for now we can kind of cap it there. And but thank you guys.
Just a final thought, like as we're talking about development, I just want us all to be like, development never ends.
Yeah, that's good.
Even though we're talking about us as developers, we are all still developing as well. Sanctification, yes.
On the journey.
Yes, and so it's spiritual development and just even still just practical. So always approaching those developmental conversations with people from a heart of like, I also have growing to do. Maybe this person has something to teach me.
That's real.
And telling that to your teams, like, I'm still learning.
I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We may have to do part 2, man.
Nice.
There's so much here
There's
that we can go to, and even more examples that I got, but this is really good. Gabe, can you pray for us?
Yeah,
as we head out?
God, we just come to you, and we just want to humble ourselves before you, God. And we just thank you for new life that we have in you, for fulfillment, God, for a calling to reach your creation, those who you love. God, I pray that you would use every person who's hearing this conversation, God, that you would speak to them, God, that you would even right now, God, would you just reveal things inside of them that you want to remove and things that you want to give them. Holy Spirit, would you just continue to refine us? God, would you help us to not be afraid of failure, but God, that we would just be willing to humble ourselves and to learn and to see what you're doing and what you're teaching us. And God, I pray as we develop people, whether they serve on our team or whether they're just a person who's sitting in the second row, God, that we would just have a heart to point them just to you, because that is really where we're going to find growth and where we're going to find health. God, is when we are connected to the vine that is Jesus. So God, would you have your way with us? We love you so much, and it's in the mighty name of Jesus that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.